Driverless cars, connected services, new sharing concepts. The automotive industry is in the midst of change. The Internet of Things is opening up a whole new world of possibilities that will push the boundaries of mobility. But what will the future really look like on the roads? One thing is for certain. New technologies are going to revolutionize today's mobility. They will turn the journey into a digitally enhanced experience and connect the vehicle to its surroundings. With Bosch, connected mobility is becoming a reality, more efficient, safer, and more comfortable and convenient.
Itaú Veículos. Soluções completas, ferramentas modernas, alta tecnologia. Reconhecimento facial, mais segurança e agilidade na compra e venda de veículos. Chat na plataforma digital. Comunicação mais fácil entre a concessionária e nosso time. Open Banking. União entre plataformas e parceiros. Inteligência artificial. Essencial na captura e gestão de leads. Soluções de mobilidade. Com a Connect Car, seu cliente vai mais longe. Olhamos para o futuro. Queremos sempre mais. Vamos juntos? Itaú Veículos. Nosso negócio é viabilizar o seu.
Mounting exterior automotive parts can be a slow process that requires the use of a noxious chemical adhesion promoter. However, our Tessa ACX primerless line of high-performance double-sided acrylic foam tapes eliminates the need for primers. These tapes quickly achieve a high level of strength and provide the thermal expansion characteristics needed when mounting side moldings, decorative trims, emblems, and other exterior attachment parts. To learn more about the benefits and cost savings of using our Tessa ACX Plus primerless line on difficult-to-bond substrates such as polypropylene EPDM, TPO, and TPE, visit tessatape.com.
Estivemos durante todo o mês de outubro na SVWC, o maior evento de transformação digital da América Latina, levando conhecimento em Libras e proporcionando inúmeras oportunidades a toda a comunidade surda. Convidamos você a fazer parte dessa transformação que vai incluir mais de 500 milhões de surdos em todo o mundo. Vamos juntos buscar mais igualdade entre as pessoas. Junte-se a Wise Hands.
Welcome. Welcome to the fourth day of our journey of the Automotive Business 2020, or ABX 20. It's a pleasure to have another morning with you. And today our topic is going to be about new technologies and the 5.0. And this talk today is offered by ZF. So I'm going to start thanking ZF for the support and all this content that we're going to generate this morning. I'd also like to remind you that if you were not able to watch the other days of this journey, everything has been recorded in the ABX website. So if you haven't accessed yet, go to www.abx.com.zc and you'll have access to all the material that we've generated on all these lives during all these mornings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Everything is very cool. There's a lot of content. Of course, we're not doing these lives in this event. We also have a premium area where you can find all the material that's been prepared for you together with a journalist. So if you want to dive into the panorama and these segments of light, heavy vehicles, agricultural, and the value chain, all you have to be is a premium subscriber. Go to the ABX, give yourself an upgrade, and then you'll also have access to what we've put there about the master classes during these days. And these were absolutely amazing. Of course, the groups were limited. We co-created a lot. We exchanged a lot of ideas. So there are a lot of insights that have been built there, and all the material that we've put related to the master class. So enjoy this opportunity in the premium area. We have another opportunity for you who want to contact the startups. Yes, on Monday we announced during the master class of Open Innovation the 10 order tags, which are the startups that received recognition or rewards, and these will be available on the website so that you can connect. But it's not only these 10. There are 250 startups so that you can connect and you can find solutions for the automotive industry. So don't miss this great opportunity with the connection to these startups. Now we're going to have a long morning here. I want to thank again ZF, big sponsor for this talk, but I also want to give special thanks to all the sponsors of ABX, because without you we would not have such a special event. You are really very important. Thank you for believing in the relevance of this event. Thank you to our partners. Wise Hands is one of them. We have 4 consulting firms that have helped us, Teriacione, Mandala, and the other consulting firms. Thank you so much for being with us this year Open as well, so our thanks. And the ambassadors, 29 ambassadors who are also helping us to build, because after all, you don't build an event, such a wonderful event, if you don't have the support of so many great people. So I leave my thanks for the best team of all, which are the people of the automotive business. So we have here during our lives, you see me, you see Giovanna, you see Pedro, but behind these cameras there are a lot of people working to bring a lot of cool things to you. So my heartfelt thanks. And also thank you to the people who are watching us, who are here. And if you are liking our content, please spread the words on the social media. Use ABX20 hashtag so that we can map everything and bring better content and better experience to you. So once again, my thank you. And this morning we're going to start with the topic, which is the Society 5.0 and how is mobility going to pan out. And we have a very special guest, and who's going to mediate this chat today, this morning, is a dear friend and partner, Gilles Jardelli. He's a professor, he's a specialist in the digital era, and he's also the co-founder of the Fifth Era. Gilles here. So, Gilles, good morning. Are we connected to Gilles, folks? So let's go back to the initial notifications. We have a bunch of options, a lot of content on our platform of the abx.com. While Gilles is reconnecting, I'm going to call a video. I'm going to put on a video of ZF, our sponsor. So as you heat your engines, heat up for the chat, you have to be part of this conversation. This conversation only makes sense if you're part of it. So I don't want you to not use the chat during our morning together. So let's watch this ZF video, folks. Really cool, this video, right? So once more, I thank ZF for supporting and sponsoring this conversation. And in inversion, here I want to invite Giovanna here to open this great conversation we're going to have this morning. So Giovanna, good morning. You are most welcome. Good morning. Good morning, folks. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a surprise. Gilles is connecting himself, and besides this, I'm going to call guests for this panel. So we're going to receive Lindalia Junqueiro. She's the CEO and founder of the Hacking Rio, and Vitor Del Rey, who's president of the Ghetto Institute. They are connecting. We're going to talk about mobility in the society, 5.0 society. This is a topic that Gilles always has this vision of the 5.0 society. He's connecting, people are joining. I ask you for a little bit of patience. Can you hear us? Lindalia, can you hear me? Say hi to us. Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Victor, say hi to everyone. Good morning. Good morning, folks. Let's have this debate. I'm anxious. So, Gilles, can you hear me? Gilles is frozen. Gilles, if you could reconnect, go out of the platform and then join again, and then meanwhile we'll warm up the conversation with Victor and Lindalia. Well, everything is always with a lot of emotion these days, right? So let's stop from the basics. Lindalia, tell people, what is this Hacking Rio? What is this project all about? Well, if for those who don't know me, it's the Era 5. I've always worked with this. It's a program in Globo, and then it was a startup in Brazil, and it was, besides the MD6, it was very clear that Brazil, even though there was an economical crisis and several other factors that were related to politics, related to the lack of investments in technology, it was the first Brazilian firm selected by NASDAQ. So in 2010 we were already beginning with electric vehicles, but we had the necessity of creating more facility. We saw that we had 650,000 vacancies and growing demand, even more now after the pandemic. We need new specialists in technology, and that's where we created this company. The first edition was in 2018, so that we could use this Hacking Rio as a platform to inspire young people that want to join technology, that they can use the tools. It's a marathon of 42 hours to solve real problems in society. So we not only were the largest one in Brazil, but it was the largest event in Latin America. And we had a cluster of urban mobility. We got the problems of Rocinha, which is a large community in Rio. It doesn't show up in the map. The Google doesn't see the street names. Sometimes the streets are very, very narrow and a vehicle can't pass. So they developed a very impacting solution for Rocinha. And they received an award for those who give the best solutions of mobility, and they received fourth place in Sweden. So we had in 2019 3,500 people. Now 2020, that we're doing everything digitally. We decided to develop a platform 100% online to do the event. It's a complicated mission because you have to integrate the team, the mentors, several different phases during different weekends, and we had 15,000 something people, and in October we had over 5,000 people working, developing over 70 solutions during the weekend. It was a show based on technology, but it's something that should solve a real problem. Just technology does not generate this 5.0 society that we wish for and that we are going to discuss in this panel. Can you hear me well? Lindalia, we can hear you. Sorry, there was a sort of little delay to change the screen, but those of you who are watching, thank you very much for your comprehension. Everyone is very dear and very polite and with the emotions, and Jill is here very active on the chat. So if we have the worst scenario, just communicate with us through the chat. Well, he's always going to be the moderator, right? So, Victor, tell us a little bit what your company does, the Ghetto Institute. And we had a very good conversation about mobility and how to make mobility more inclusive. So I would like you to please talk about this work that you developed. Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me the possibility of participating of this large event and to be able to put at the center of the debate those people that have less. The teacher talked now about the experience in the hackathon to solve problems in the Rocinho, and they're one of my big development partners. One of them lives there in Rocinho, and one day I went to her house to do some things, and I said if she let me alone in Rocinha for me to go back home, I would walk around the whole day and I wouldn't get back home. And the capacity of those people have to know the numbers, the tiny streets, to be able to reach their homes, and the electrical network, how there's never been a short circuit there, and how the whole thing hasn't caught fire, and of other things related to architecture and urbanism, because the constructions made by those who live there. There are a lot of anthropological studies that talk about it's a culture that in Portuguese we call a puxadinho, which means one floor on top of the other with really no codes or no. So people start building either on top or beside it, and all of a sudden you have all these illegal constructions, and the problems of how these shanty towns show up and how they grow. It's something that started way back from the Republic, and it's a problem that started after slavery was terminated. And what would you do with these people who used to be slaves? Now they're free, and if you don't have anything, well, you build when you can. So the first hill was the Previdência Hill, and then from there on it expanded and expanded. And in São Paulo, I think it's Heliópolis is the biggest one in Brazil. And it seems that in Brasilia there's a community that's even larger. But the bigger ones are in Rio. I remember that I participated in the first UN hackathon. So we produced a technology that would solve social problems, and the team that I was working with at the hackathon, the technology that we invented was one that was more about transferring funds and money to social projects that work or that are doing something in these slums. Giving sustainability, because there are some theories, which is the economic theory of crime, which says if you open the if you increase the amount of opportunities, especially adolescents between 12 and 16 years old when they're more susceptible to crime, you're able to decrease the incidence of the entry of these adolescents in the crime world. So I'm saying this because listening to the teacher talking and also talking about Harsinha, I remembered this wonderful experience. The Ghetto Institute, ghetto doesn't mean being in the ghetto. It means organized technology with urban organization. It's an institution that I founded. I have some friends working with me, and what we do is we research, we do consultings in racism, urban mobility, recruiting. We try to produce solutions from our stories and our narratives because the majority have gone to university. I'm doing my master's with the Getúlio Vargas Foundation. So in the Getúlio Foundation, we have researchers where we try to produce from the poor people's stories solutions for the problems that we've been looking at for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're not listened to. Urban mobility is always at the center of a debate. Why is that? Because it has to do with at least three things. The work, we have a population that sometimes is not able to find work because they live far away and they have to pay 2 or 3 bus tickets, difficult to arrive on time because the traffic of the city. It has to do with the development in their work. Once they find a job, we know that the traffic in Rio, I'm talking about Rio because that is my experience as a carioca. I've had mobility experiences in other countries and other states of Brazil, but I'm talking from my experience in Rio. We know that if you live in the area of the Baixada Fluminense in Rio and you have to go to the southern part of the city, you're going to be for 2 or 3 hours in the public transport. So when you finally get to work, your energy has disappeared through the effort of getting there. So to improve the mobility and so that the people can reach work in a more efficient way, this means taking people from Y to X in the less time possible. Well, they created the BRT, the subway, to do this, but the conditions of this experience and really they take you have a lot of problems. You have problems with women, you have accidents in the transport, a few sexual harassment, you have drips in the train, you have problems that the air conditioning doesn't work. So there are a lot of problems and issues and leaks in the trains. So when you talk about the students, when you leave your home to go to college where you're going to be prepared to contribute better to the society and the GDP, so you get to college already with your energy totally depleted. So this is a problem because you've consumed all your energy during the transport. And of course, depending when you come back, you might spend 3 or 3.5 hours inside public transport. Well, Victor, thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. You brought extremely relevant topics to this debate. Folks, I think the gods of internet have cooperated and Gilles has finally managed to connect. I'm going to ask the people to connect him. Gilles, can you hear us? Are you on? Yes, I heard Lindalia, you, Paula Braga, Vitor. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for the invitation of bringing these amazing people. And I don't think we have this concept of being from one place or another. We're all from the earth, but as a coincidence, 2 friends in Rio that are thinking of an intelligent city, way of relating to each other. So I'm going to take the opportunity since we're talking about 5.0 society, I'm going back to Vito, but I've led a project that now Rio, after a long time with no support of the government, Rio was chosen as one of the cities. I think it would be very good for you to share this with us. A long time working together. I'm very happy to see you. I think Rio is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So it's a wonderful opportunity to work with these cities in these communities of the future. Is it? Yes, Lindalia, the floor is yours. Well, Vitor, you know that I'm the daughter of Portuguese immigrants. They were very poor when they came here. My mother was 15, my father was 18, and I only had the opportunity of growing in public schools. And at the time, I had good teachers. So if one day, if I reached NASA in 2000T, it was thanks to education that transforms everything. And the first startup weekend, the first entrepreneur movement, so a community from the Previdência participated, and we had the health platform that was done by them, and then they were elected by the MIT as one of the most innovative in Brazil. So we really have to work with these channels and these possibilities, so this access is open to all. Gilles, about what you are talking about, let's talk about Rio, but it is like a photograph of Brazil. In 2017, they were elected the most innovative city, and in the peak of a crisis. So how does this work? To be elected the most innovative city when you're immersed in a management crisis, economical crisis. So we have human capital because we have a lot of innovation specialists that have PhDs and master degrees. Two of the supercomputers in Brazil are here in Rio. But what is missing is the connection of people and projects to a common goal, to really transform society. Technology with technology alone doesn't make things happen. You can see, I know you for so many years. I think I've known you for over 15 years. And you, as a person of vision, inspiring companies and corporations so that they adopt these technologies to solve problems of society. And then all of a sudden we have a pandemic and it wakes everyone up, showing that digital is something that's arrived to stay. Before, only 10% in 1900, only 10% lived in large cities and needed any kind of mobility. The forecast was in 2050 to have 2 of every 3 people living in an urban area. Now it's sort of going the other way around. A lot of people are migrating to the interior after the pandemic. But we've been struggling, and we submitted Rio to a global program called MIT Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program for regions. And I think that the cake will actually grow if everyone grows together. As my mother always says, the best way to learn to multiply is to learn how to divide. This program is really very good because it's worked out in several countries in the world. We're in the 8th cohort, selection cohort, and it has as a premise to unite the ecosystem. We have to have a representative of management, of public management, of academia, of investors and companies and entrepreneurs. And we're going to work on the thesis that was approved for the first time in Brazil, go into the global MAC. So talking about sustainability, we have to rethink this question of urban mobility, taking into account these, for example, autonomous cars, electric cars. We thought these could be a way, or the levitation car that I saw in Korea, but perhaps it might be cycling. You see that Portugal is buying bicycles to donate to the population. It was, as similar to Amsterdam. So we're going to have to analyze for each city what the real impact is, but without forgetting the environment, without forgetting the social. It's not a discourse of just thinking that we're good and the company was going to have a positive image. No, it doesn't work like that. Now survival, it's essential. So that it is. The MIT RIP is coming, and I'm going to count on all of you. We're going to start in January next year. We're going to have 2 years for us to develop together several projects which can impact the society with Vitor as well. I'm happy to learn about the Ghetto Institute that I didn't know, so we're going to have to connect existing projects. There's no innovation without collaboration, so the secret is to connect and these existing projects so that we have this as the strength of moving into one direction. Very, very good, Lindalia. People like Paula, all the people that are here with us. I think there's a lot of good news. We have islands of innovation. So these bridges, for example, you in Rio, you know everyone, Vitor as well. So it's very important to be a part of this bridge. And now going back to the people who are watching us, Louise, Society 5.0 was a project that was started by someone who said if the technology is not to improve the lives of people, then it's no use having it. What do we want? Robots and drones and electric cars? If this is according to if we can't save the people that were impacted by a tsunami a few years ago, for example. So we were already thinking about 5.0 society. So either the world is everyone's or it's no one's. And in high academia, I've also been studying. There's several things I can share about green innovation, which are intelligent cities. So there's one that's being done near Mount Fuji in Tokyo. Another one in a desert area. So in China, you have this in an area where you have
they are able to capture carbon dioxide and sell it at a price. So we're talking about quantum transportation as a scientific society who have been able to transport inanimated beings from one place to the other. We have already tested it with small mammals. We have 3D printing, and we have flying jackets. You wear a jacket that will take you from different neighborhoods in São Paulo and in Rio. But then my question to Victor is, once I went to Cidade de Deus, neighborhood of slums in Rio, I asked them what they thought about public transportation. They said, for 30 years in my life, I used public transportation. You know, the train had water dripping, crowded buses. Now I can buy my car. I could afford a car. I spend more time in traffic jams, but it's my car. I'm listening to my music. So this idea of pooling, carpooling, is not well accepted. You know, lots of people could afford cars after a while, and they were happy to be in their cars on their own. And then, you know, they're going to think about collective urban mobility. Very good question, because if we think of the social mobility, we remember that one thing that changed women's life still in the 80s was the invention of the washing machine, because women had more time to do other things, because they had washing machines and dishwashing machines, and in lower income brackets they are very happy when they can afford a car, for instance. There was a tax deduction that enabled more people to afford a car. So the idea of sharing a ride is okay for small distances, for instance, from one neighborhood to the other. And that depends on the friendship you might have with people. So, shared carpooling hasn't been well accepted to lower income brackets, because there are issues of trust, with whom you're going to share that ride. And secondly, people won't accept anybody in their cars, because it took them a long time to be able to afford a car. And there is a third factor that seems important to me, that has to do with connectivity. In order to have carpoolings, you have to have an app. In order to have an app, you have to have internet connection. And there are some surveys showing that lower income brackets use their cell phones to go to social media, and they use social media apps, and their data package, so to speak, is very low. When we talk about the users at the Ghetto Institute, they say that they prefer to use public transportation because it's cheaper, and they only use an app if it is an emergency. If the bus is stopped driving and they have no way to get back home, then they are going to use the mobility app. And there was something you said about 5.0 technology. I remember a book I read, which is called Network Societies, and then he debates the future of work with the evolving technology. If we think of technology and also the issue of smart cities and the Internet of Things and how this makes our lives better, when I go to São Paulo, I'm able to catch a bus because I download an app that gives me the itinerary of the bus, so I don't have to ask lots of people that might not know about it, or to buy underground ticket, that gives me the right amount, and I use my card, etc. And this book says that lots of people are going to lose their jobs, because if you don't go to the ticket office, the person who was at the ticket office will be jobless. So society will develop other jobs for these people who will be fired, so to speak, by technology, will be made jobless. So when we talk about smart cities, 5.0 technology in a highly connected society, the main point is education, because if you don't have good basic education that will allow us to use more advanced technology, further away will these people be? So there will be a, so to speak, technology apartheid. For instance, bank clerks, the guy who is at the bank cashier, this guy will be replaced by a machine. I seldom need that sort of clerk, because I do everything with my computer. So if they don't know how to use technology, these people will be jobless or will have minion jobs. So the technology debate should be held with the debate about education, shouldn't we be talking about inserting programming in school syllabi? For instance, 5.0 society, these people live that every day, but they are far away from the debate and they're far away from interest. We cannot develop another highly connected society that has access to everything and another group that has no access to education and who simply works for this highly technology and connected brackets. And this has to do with the consumption society, and it's very easy that our children have access to technology and like it because they do that every day and we do it every day. But for many people, this is still a big novelty. Well, in fact, I volunteered to a project that has just been launched, and I was struck. I have 22,000 students every day, 22 new students without major advertising, and courses given by technology companies. I understand the technology unemployment. I agree with you with what Professor Castel said, but on the other hand, there are lots of jobs in technology. They need people. So and this is data from the Education Ministry from the previous administration. Almost 60% of our students are illiterate in both maths and Portuguese, so this person won't be able to have a job because this person needs good Portuguese and maths to find a job. At the Sao Paulo International Airport, you no longer pay your car park ticket with a person in the cashier. But I had to help two people to use these machines, the ticketing machines. They had difficulty to use it. So I'd like to ask you two questions. The basis of 5.0 society is to fight inequalities. I know that Giovanna and Paula Braga will like that, and I think that's important. Lindália was the first Brazilian woman, and to have a high job. Now we have many, but she was the first, and I was amazed, and I was, very pleased to see a woman in this kind of position. So, I'd like to ask Lindália and Vitor the following question. Is there still prejudice against women in innovation? What would you say today to Paula's daughter? What would you say to people who are watching us? Of course, everyone has a different trajectory, but you had to face lots of issues, and now you're doing fantastic things. Thank you for your question. I'd like to talk about that. I have never burnt bras because I had to work very hard in order to raise my 3 children, so I had no time to fight for feminism. There is a survey by Rewind saying that if we don't review structural issues such as gender, race, age, it will take us 80 years to have gender equality. So we do have to take some actions. There are very few people in technology. We have a deficit. We have 150,000 vacant jobs in technology in Brazil, and a small percentage is occupied by women. That's why we have quotas for women. In the beginning, I was against that. Why do we need quotas? We have so many competent women. But in fact, as I said, it's a structural issue. It's a cultural issue. If you are in a board with men, you tend to nominate or to suggest a friend of yours. You don't open those jobs or positions for other people. You know, I have already suffered both moral and sexual harassment, and it's a very misogynist atmosphere, environment. People tend to ignore you. Today I work with Mulheres do Brasil, with women entrepreneurs, with angel investors, and I am the global ambassador of women in tech, gathering millions of women in the world. In December, we are going to have the Women in Tech Awards. So we're going to give opportunities for projects developed by women, both in technology and social areas. And we'll need a lot of training because many people say, oh, this is not for women. I was the only woman in engineering a while ago. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. I have a bachelor's degrees in music and in engineering. So we have to mix both logics. We have to have computational thinking, as we say at MIT, in order to understand logic. And then you are able to know any language in Portuguese, English, Javanese. But in fact, in order to learn programming languages, this other way of communicating with equipment and other people, we have to understand our logic. You know, robots are human, so to speak. We are going to have the singularity age in 2024, in 4 years. The computational capacity will overtake human capacity, but the idea is not to make people jobless. The idea is to use that as a further resource in order to find different ways to act in the world. I call it a humane singularity, to have a more diverse, inclusive world. We have to think of people's well-being. There is no point in having more inexpensive technology, but not to have or not to use it properly. I remember, for instance, you mentioned Dubai, Abu Dhabi. In 2015, they opened a hub of magnetic energy in order to allow people to build faster transportation. So they launched a paper for the scientific community. There was several initiatives, one of them in Abu Dhabi. So it's a plane without wings. And why is it interesting? In order to make it possible, the scientific community had to get together. 800 scientists got together. In the United States, there was a contest amongst university students, so they needed collaboration in order to give rise to something interesting. And this transportation is not only faster, it's free. And why is it free? Because the more you use it, the more energy you build. So in fact, it's a great energy storer. It's not only a mode of transportation. So what we have to think about is how to make technology to give rise to easier transportation, easier mobility, cheaper mobility, etc. That's it. Thank you, Lindalia. There are lots of people, Jorge, Sueli Carneiro, Manir, sending questions, Gabriel Vieira, other people here sending emojis, heart emojis. If you like it, please send us a nice emoji. And if you don't like it, that's okay. This is a democracy. You may send us other kinds of emojis. So our debate is about to be wrapped up. I'd like to ask Victor a question. I grew in São Paulo, and I had a best friend that now lives in Germany. And we were always stopped by the police, and he was the only one to undergo an inspection. Now, regardless of gender and race, less than 2% of African Brazilians get to master's degrees. What would you say to these people? What would you say to those people who still have prejudice, who are still prejudiced? It's still very latent. What would you tell those people? And what would you tell people who are fighting this prejudice and they look for a job? And this has already happened to me. You know, sometimes I choose another person because this person, well, given person lived very far, and this person was not going to be as productive as expected. Complex issues, right? What would you tell these people? Well, complex answers deserve simple. Complex questions deserve simple answers. We had already spoken about that. If we still have an urban mobility that prevents people from getting jobs, that's because we failed. So we have to recognize we failed. So we have to stop believing that taking a guy who lives in Copacabana to Botafogo by bike in 30 minutes is urban mobility, and we solved the problem. Okay, he rode a bike, he didn't use the car, he didn't emit CO2. So we have the idea that we solved the problem of urban mobility in Rio. We have to stop thinking that, you know, having bike lanes in the southern districts of Rio de Janeiro is the major deliverable for urban mobility. We don't live in Sweden or Norway. This is not a tropical Sweden. This is Brazil. Either we look at urban mobility in order to solve Brazilian problems, or we are going to solve problems for the wealthier neighborhoods. You know, if a guy rides the underground and takes it 2 hours to get downtown, because, you know, it lives in a distant neighborhood, that's a problem. In my master's thesis, I study smart urban mobility, and I asked this question: we have to find to whom we're building a smart city. I'm freezing sometimes. No, I can hear. So this is part of my thesis. To whom are we building urban mobility? IoT for whom? Urban mobility for whom? Because we can't think of urban mobility when it takes a guy two and a half hours to get from this suburbs to downtown Rio. So it's cool to have bike lanes. I'm not against them, but we cannot think that having, you know, bike lanes in wealthy neighborhoods in Rio will solve our urban mobility problem. This is not tropical Sweden. This is Brazil. So, and secondly, talking about race issues. I am the only black student at my master's degree. And in another university I studied that had 3,000 students, of these 3,000 students, there are no 30 African Brazilian students, because you might say, okay, this is a private university, only people who can afford it will go there. Now we could ask ourselves, what country is Brazil that only wealthy people can afford a private education? Another thing that we should challenge was the education we have delivered for poor income brackets, to the point that they require quotas. There are social quotas and there are race quotas. So poor people, either black or white, have very bad basic education. So we have data from state level education secretaries, and when you look at data and you cross them, or you double check them according to gender and race, you will see that the worst grades in math, Portuguese, etc., come from African Brazilians. So there is something wrong. There is something that affects the behavior of these students in the classroom. I was an African Brazilian adolescent in the classroom, and when there were lessons about the slavery in Brazil, people only looked at me. And to make things worse, I have a very posh last name, which is Del Rey, from the king. You're not, and that was a smart car at the time, and I was mocked, people made fun of me because of my last name. So I go back to the slavery abolition. Blacks were left to their own devices. The documents of the Republican Revolution showed that. And Brazil started bringing immigrants, Portuguese, Germans, Italians, giving land to them and education to their children. So whilst Europeans came to Brazil, got land, money, and school for their children, African Brazilians could only start studying at the Second Republic. So if the start in 1889 was that, we cannot speak about meritocracy. I am the single black in the master's degree. I am a point, I am the outlier, just like Lindalia, who was the first woman to go to NASA. She didn't say it is, didn't she say it is a systemic problem, a structural problem, and there are gaps, even worse gaps, when we talk about black women. So this led Magazine Luiza, a chain of stores, to establish quotas for African Brazilian workers. So go and check the books. Probably the last time you saw issues about race issues was when you studied to be admitted to the university, and then you never read anything again about African Brazilians. But there are people who have been studying this issue for 10 years, and if you are intellectually honest, you have to take it into account and not say, I think. No, everybody, you have to study in order to be able to issue an opinion. Thank you. Now, I'd like to wrap up. I'd like to thank Paula Braga and the whole team of automotive business that allowed us to develop this content. I see that there are many good comments. I think that there are proposals that come from innovation. Please follow these people. Follow Victor and Lindalia. We have people who are thinking about Brazil, very well chosen by the curators. So we have to have an in-depth debate in order to make the next step. Paula and Giovanna, Professor Lindalia, my great friend Victor as well. We know that a lot of problems to face, but we have been developing. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Giovanna, you have the floor.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. All this discussion is very important for us. I'm happy that Gilles brought this, conducted this very well. I thank you very much. See you next time. And, well, those who are watching, thank you for the comments, questions, reactions. Follow us. And now I invite Pedro Kuchner, the editor of the portal, to follow our program. Thank you very much, all of you who are watching us in the fourth day of this live session. Thank you for your cooperation, and I apologize for our slight delay. We had a few technical issues, but let's follow now with the new technologies and the 5.0 society. We have here two special guests for the automation and electricity panel. Technology in a reinvented context with João Oliveira, Director of Operations and Innovation of Volvo Car Brazil. Good morning, João. Good morning. Even better now that you're with us. And we also have Alan Holzman, who's the Director of Strategy and Products of Volvo Trucks Latin America. Hi, Alan. How are you? Fine. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and to be speaking with you. Well, we have an opportunity of having the two Volvos with us, the Volvo car and the Volvo trucks, right? If for those of you who don't know, it's the same brand, two different companies, and they've been separated already for over 30 years, but with the same concept, with the same roots. And so let's now move forward with our discussion about automation and vehicle electricity in these two fields, vehicles and trucks. Let's start with the electrical part. There are several paths. You have 100% battery, you have fuel cells, hydrogen, and you have hybrid that can be half electric, it can be a normal fuel together. So what is the trend that Volvo is betting on? Where do you think? Well, we think the hybrid cars will be around for quite a long time. It's a transition, actually, for us to be able to go to a 100% electrical transition. It's going to take a while. And then the 100% electrical cars with batteries. So today we don't bet on the development of other technologies. We've centered our efforts on the battery development. Okay, I have one additional audio here. I apologize, Alan. Ever since 2019, Volvo manufactures in Sweden and for the European markets two models of trucks for collection of waste, electrical trucks for the European market. This is going to be extended for heavy trucks, the ones that exist alike with hydrogen cells for long distance operations. So what are the paths, what are the ways, how do you think this is going to move forward? Hybrid batteries or cells or everything together? What do you believe in? Well, in truth, Volvo launched this program and showed what our journey is going to be like for the next few years. And this started in 2019 with these vehicles and medium-sized vehicles, and now continuing this launch to heavier vehicles that have been launched in 2020, and they're going to start being sold in 2021, and they're going to be delivered in an industrial scale as of 2022, with a clear proposal that up to 2040 we will have an offering of products with no fossil fuels. So that's the way we're going. And in this journey, we go past all these technologies. It's a bit different, trucks. The challenge is a bit more difficult. We have the gigantic loads, we have different loads for long distance vehicles, and we have technological challenges. But yes, we're going to have battery vehicles, fuel cells, and also hybrid vehicles in the meanwhile. So all the technologies are an alternative. So that's the way Volvo is moving with the product strategy. Good. Now talk about bringing all this to Brazil. Volvo already has plug-in hybrid models already. I think since last year these models have reached Brazil. What I'd like to know is how is the acceptance of these models by the Brazilian public? What's the percentage of the demand that they represent, and when will the 100% electrical vehicles come? Well, cool, Pedro. Well, the acceptance today is larger and larger for electrical products, and the hybrid vehicles we can analyze on different angles, sort of sales mix. If we look at Volvo last year, we were selling 20% of our mix in electrical products. This year, our average is going up to 43%. And if we look at the last 2 months, we're already reaching 60%. So you can see that the progression is fast. Our perspective is that during the first quarter next year, 2021, we will add the migration of all our product offering to hybrid products. And from the second semester, Volvo will not have only internal combustion engines. It will be hybrid or electric. If we analyze it from a consumer side, I can give you some data. The first is internal research that we have with Volvo consumers. 86% of them who have a hybrid vehicle today say that they will not go back in their next change. So they'll continue with a hybrid, or they'll try for a 100% electrical alternative. So they say that they'll never buy an internal combustion car in their lives again. Now, if we look at the residual value issue, the Volvo X60 was elected the best vehicle in residual value related to the depreciation. 9.8 depreciation is really a very low depreciation, lower than 10%. That is something that way back it was thought that it wouldn't be feasible because of consumer doubts, but now we can see that semi-new is also a huge market for these hybrid vehicles. So putting all these factors together, it shows that the hybrid vehicle here clearly is a reality in the country. To give you another data, the premium SUVs, Volvo today sells 1 of every 4. We're a vice leader of the premium car market, and half of these SUVs already are hybrid. So it's already a massive presence in the market. Now, answering about the 100% electrical, we launch in the second semester of next year the first 100% electrical product in Brazil, the XE Recharge, and we're going to have a second product with it'll be new for Volvo. It's something that we've never had. The body of the car is completely new, electrical, and in the next 5 years we're going to launch 100% electrical product per year. So this is the journey for us to have half of the sales in hybrid vehicles in 2025 and the other one electrical in 2000. So it's a journey with a lot of development. Yeah, we can see that the electrification, the hybridization, even though if it's incipient in Brazil, it has a high percentage of increase. The same does not happen with the trucks, right? It doesn't even happen with it. Only in Europe we have a few initiatives, and here in Brazil only one manufacturer is going to launch an electrical truck next year. Last year during Fenatran, the president of Volvo Trucks, who's already been a president here in Brazil and of Volvo Latin American, he suggested that Volvo was studying the idea of bringing electrical trucks to Brazil. So when could this happen? Well, it's true. You can see that this route that we've established globally, it's something that we're going to follow. We have some additional challenges when we talk about commercial vehicles in relation to the infrastructure, which is a bit problematic, and also the problems of cost, of the total cost of ownership, what we call. So it really can become attractive business-wise. We are in a growing curve of technology and decrease of prices, so this break-even point is very close to happening. But obviously we're doing this planning, we're studying what will be the best moment, but we still don't talk about dates. The fact is that it is going to happen. We have some demands in terms of infrastructure, in terms of incentives, in terms of the industrial policies, so that because there's all this issue, the truck needs to have financial levels. When you import a vehicle, the costs are very high, so we still have some challenges to overcome to introduce this in a safe manner and for this to have continuity. Okay, let's go to another topic in our panel, in our discussion. Let's talk about automation and systems of this. Volvo is a brand that's always been known for the safety. Also donating the patent of the safety belt, the 3-point safety belt, about 60 years ago. Now, how does Volvo work with the inclusion of these new electronics intelligent systems of vehicle safety? What is the way that Volvo's going? Well, for a few years we've been investing in this migration of the passive safety systems, which are those that protect you after an accident occurs, to active systems, which are the ones that avoid accidents happening. So we've spent a lot of times doing this so to avoid accidents taking place. But on the other hand, we see that 95% of the accidents, they have human failure involved. So this is something that if we really want a future with zero deaths in traffic, we have to solve this problem. There are situations where you remove the control of the driver and you can have the machine taking more adequate decisions. And in this space, we have the autonomous vehicle. It's what we've most developed during the last years. We're going to launch the latest version of the XC90 when we inaugurate the next generation of our platform. It's going to be 100% autonomous for highways, and it's going to have a highway autopilot. So all the systems for this car are being developed together with a startup in the Silicon Valley. And so it's a system with laser radars that can do all the monitoring of objects and situations around the car and giving an input so that the intelligent systems of the vehicle can decide how to drive. So this is the way to really have 100% autonomy, and we've been developing this a lot. The idea is to remove human failure or human error for the driver of the vehicle. Alan, how is Volvo dealing with this automation? This is also very important to increase the safety of trucks. But what are the elements? And the weights, of course, are very different because a truck can be transporting 80 tons of cargo, and over and above that has to compensate all these systems to take over the driving automatically. How is Volvo dealing with this, with these auxiliary systems for driving? Well, we have to separate things here because we have several different types of focus. When we talk about urban applications, they're very similar to what João mentioned in the automotive industry. We're one step back from the vehicle industry. For example, we've been pioneers with all the equipment that João mentioned, and more these equipments, they sophisticating themselves, different controls, different devices, anti-collision, and also that we have several equipment available today, and a lot of brands offer these as well, moving in the same direction. When we talk about becoming more independent than the driver, then things are much more complex because of the risks that you just mentioned, and also the laws that have to be changed in the sequence. So, as you said, a vehicle of 74 tons being driven in a highway, the consequences of an accident are much more serious. So there is this concern, this additional concern. And of course there are some questions which are the commercial applications, which you mentioned in mining, agriculture, in hostile environments, like in war environments where vehicles have a different role. We have a global division to deal with these topics. We have a unit that deals just with this division of automation. Volvo already works with autonomous vehicles for specific operations in confined environments. We have the VM model for the sugarcane harvest. It's a simple operation where the vehicle has to have a constant speed in a straight line. It's not something so complicated. It's easier to adapt a vehicle like this. You also launched recently the concept of Vera, a truck with no cabin, totally autonomous to transport containers in ports, for example. You're already doing tests in Swedish ports, if I'm not mistaken. This type of vehicle, 100% autonomous for cargo, what horizon does this future lie in? Well, it's what was said. This is already a reality. The technology is very advanced. We have similar experiences in mines. But in terms of technology, it's more of adjustments to the evolution because the technology is available already. Not too many legal barriers or ethical issues. There always is the discussion of ethics in terms of the labor market, because we understand that some of these operations in Europe, it's not going to be competition. So dangerous environments, for example, like mines, it's extremely repetitive tasks, but there's still operations with the Vera, for example, in the 3 fronts are integrated in the Vera, so the electro mobility, the collectivity, and the automation. So these 3 vectors, which are automotive, they are present in the most advanced stage of this vehicle. So until all of this is at a ready to be used commercially, we still have a way to go. But the technical challenges are being overcome. So once again, it's difficult for you to talk about a time frame, for you to say that you're going to have autonomous vehicles with no drivers. It's still going to take a lot of years. But these applications, as VM, these already are a reality. VM, I think, was the first car with a commercial sale, which was really sold and being used in practice. It was a success case developed here in Brazil, and together with the other global technology institutes, but it was developed by the Brazilian market. Thank you, Alain. I'm going to ask you a question, João, which comes from our listeners who are following us with a lot of interest. Fernando Pereira asks if Volvo is studying some type of subscription program to make these cars, these electric cars, more feasible for the final client in Brazil. Globally we have with a program that operates in the US and in Europe. This can potentially be introduced in Brazil as well. It's a system of subscriptions, and we have studies, yes, trying to understand what are the expectations of the consumers here in our country, what type of preference they have on this system to access mobility. We should have some initiatives that will be launched soon, and these will be a test platform for us to be able to interpret how this operation takes place in practice, and it can be this type of program in Brazil. So I think pay attention, stay tuned, because we will have cool things in this sense for sure. Very good. I'm going to ask you a last question for us to be able to end our panel, which actually went very fast because the discussions are all extremely pleasant. So, João, in your opinion, the future of these technologies of autonomous driving, does this have a future in Brazil? I'm sure it does. Brazil, for sure, is going to take a bit longer than Europe or other areas to have this technology being adopted fully, but it's a question of time. We have to understand, and today we have legislation gaps, not only in Brazil, but in the whole world. So how can you transfer the responsibility of the driver to a machine? This is something important to be solved. We also have a gap of infrastructure that has to be solved so that the vehicles can work 100% autonomously. So part of this development, Volvo has had to take over when we talked about expand this in the country. It was a country with no infrastructure for recharging these vehicles, and we know that we have several other priorities for Brazil. As a private company, if we wanted to develop this, we couldn't expect the government to install electrical charging posts. So Volvo is the brand that has most invested in these technologies. We're going to reach the end of the year with 700 of these charging posts installed, and this is a demonstration that sometimes if we want to promote the market, we have to become responsible for implementing the infrastructure as well. I think with the autonomous vehicles, it's not going to be different when we think of highway infrastructure that has to happen. We have to have good planning between the government and the private sectors and the manufacturers that are interested in moving this forward, so that we have a common vision of how to do this in practice. But that it's going to be a reality in Brazil, I have absolutely no doubt. Alain, and what about in the truck area? How does Volvo see this technological future of autonomous driving for Brazil? well, as I said, in some cases already is reality, such as the sugarcane application that you mentioned. It has a very intelligent principle, which is to increase the productivity in the field in the next harvest. This is not linked to the eliminating of the driver, but to productivity. And what we've seen is that our client base is in quest of this technology. So the market is screaming for this. Giant clients, for example, like Vale Mining, Ambev, companies that have a strong focus in safety and sustainability, development of new technologies in a high level, so on a global scale. And these clients have been searching for us constantly and looking for partnerships to develop solutions in automation and also electromobility. So I have no doubt that this is going to take place, but perhaps we will have a delay due to capacity of making this local production feasible. We have some struggles in this sense, but if you think of the point of view of the market need and aspirations of our clients, beyond, there's no doubt. Yes. Okay, folks. We are going to end our panel now. I'd like to thank you, João, for your presence, and you too, Alain. Thank you very much for having accepted our invitation to debate these important issues in ABX 20. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. We're going to continue with our live programming, and now we have an international guest who's going to talk straight from the US. It's Jay Iyengar, or Iyengar. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. I'm going to speak in Portuguese. Iyengar, she says. And she's going to listen from the US, the translation that we have here. Can you hear us well, Jay?
Yes, I can.
Sim, well, Jay is
Can you
going
hear
to
me
talk.
okay?
Jay is going to talk about the importance of Brazil for the global ascension of agricultural machines, which is the specialty of CNH. She's a global chief technology. She's going to make a short presentation of 20 minutes about the developments of CNH. You can make your presentation. All you have to do is ask us, and we'll turn the pages of your presentation for you. Is that okay?
Great. Okay. That's fine.
Okay,
can we get
so
started?
we're going to
I
put
don't
Jay's
see the
presentation
slide.
on.
Perfect.
Here
Thank
it
you.
is.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to join this prestigious ABX event today. I know we're all in very challenging times, and thank you for organizing this virtual conference format to continue the focus on technology and solution for the customers. My topic today is the importance of Brazil for the global rise of new technologies for trucks and machines. But before I get into this, I'm going to start off with a very quick introduction to CNH. If you just go to the next slide. Next slide. I guess there is a little bit of delay. Okay. We are a large capital goods company, both in the agriculture, construction, commercial, specialty vehicles, and powertrains, both on and off highway, with iconic brands, and some of them have a legacy going back to 150 years. If you go to the next slide, looking at some of the key figures for the company. We are a global multinational, multicultural company in 180 countries. Rich heritage of technology development and innovation is in the company's DNA. As you can see from the strength of our patents, is 11,984. I know the text doesn't show well there in the picture. And then go to the next slide. Sustainability is at the core of what we do. And we align directly with the 6 SDGs in our business. And we have been recognized for this in various indices such as Dow Jones, CDP, A-List, etc. Next slide, if you just look at what our presence in Brazil specifically. We have multiple R&D centers and manufacturing plants spanning across all of our businesses. In fact, Brazil is the lead center for excellence for some of our global products. We've had presence in Brazil for about over 45 years. And as an example, the sugarcane harvesters that are designed, developed, and built in Piracicaba Center of Excellence gets exported all over the world. Another example, Curitiba is one of the largest manufacturing and product development plants operations compared to all over CNH worldwide. So we have been, Brazil is very important to us, and it's important to note that we have a very rich innovation culture in CNH in Brazil, and we have been recognized for that externally as well. So we see Brazil as a globally important, a fertile ground for innovation and technology for the company. So if you go to the next slide, why do I say that? Here is just a couple of examples. I picked 3 out of many reasons why Brazil is important from an innovation technology lens. One is, as you can see on the left, there is a growth in agriculture, right? It continues to grow. Even in the middle of a COVID situation we are struggling with globally, the growth in agriculture has been really strong. And the second is we see a boost in infrastructure, public works, and all of this in more details than I do, but so there is a strong encouragement from an infrastructure perspective for all of our businesses, to make Brazil an important part of our footprint. Third is, this is really important to me, is the talent pool. You see some statistics there in terms of artificial intelligence. The focus the country has on digital and artificial intelligence, and the AI ranking is 40 out of 192. If you look at the global universities, 1,000 top universities in the world, 22 of them are in Brazil. And in fact, St. Paulo University is 121 in the ranking. So it's very highly ranked academic institutions. And then the innovation ecosystem that you have with the startups and especially in the agricultural technologies, fintech, all of this kind of creates a very vibrant culture for us to make Brazil an important part of our technology. So let me get a little bit more into the CNH specific technologies. If you go to the next slide. And the things I'll talk about sort of span. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can. Things I talk about sort of span across our product segments, both on the on-highway and the off-highway side, but I'll just share a few examples. If you go to the next slide, I always like to start off with what is it that makes the technology sustainable and what is it that's driving where we're going. Items on this slide is not a surprise to anybody. It is the population. These are, we'd call them macro trends. It's the population growth. And if you look at urbanization, climate change, and then most importantly, the connectedness, right? Connectedness is already becoming the mainstream. In fact, the research says that because of COVID, it's going to accelerate even further. So what does this all mean for technology trends? If you go to the next slide, because of these drivers, the technology trends are, if you just go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Our emerging our digitalization, both in the products and the connected system, the digital ecosystem to provide enhanced services for both reactive, proactive, predictive support to our customers. Clearly, autonomous operations, including autonomous driving. And then if you carry the digital thread concept forward, the servitization, new business models emerging because of digitally enabled business models. And then most importantly, alternative propulsion, which take into account focus on environment and efficiency. So if you go to the next slide, at CNH, we think of these as multiple pathways. Things are connected. You can't separate one from the other. If you just look at roadmap towards zero emissions, fuel efficiency, alternative fuels, anything to do with machine efficiency that gives fuel economy, electrification, and the pathway towards zero emissions. And then on a full automation, which provides incredible amount of customer value in terms of productivity, safety enhancements. You got the machine automation, autonomous vehicles, and then overall data management. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction to a few of these and what we're doing. If you just go to the next slide, the first is the area of precision farming. It's very interesting to take a step back and say, what is the magnitude of the problem a challenge that's being addressed by precision farming? You see the numbers on the left there in terms of the challenging scenario. This is a global view, and many of these are very much true for Brazil as well. And then on the right side, you see a precision farming, the opportunities, technology enabled opportunities that precision farming addresses the challenge on the left. Just as in one example, we'll just take an example of yield loss due to over-fertilization. That's almost 20%. It's just imagine a manufacturing plant that's only 80% efficient. So the only way to get at some of these things is the technologies, especially the precision farming and precision technologies. If you go to the next slide, we think of this as, again, I use the word digital thread. It is not, it's connected end to end if you think about this. So we think of this as a full value chain in terms of fleet. Fleet means what's on the vehicles, things you could do with logistics, maintenance, optimization, predictive and proactive resolution, reducing downtime, etc. on the fleet side. Then you talk about the field, what is on the ground in the farm you're looking at, guidance, control systems, agronomic sensing and monitoring that can optimize the yield. And then if you look at the farm, overall operations and agronomic decisions that you make on the farm through overall management software applications and including overall economic efficiency for our customers. So how this is playing out, it's best described. I've got a next slide. There's a 2-minute video. It ties it all together. If you just go to the next slide and play the video, please.
Bem-vindo ao AFS Connect. Com imagens de satélites, drones, piloto automático, telemetria, sistemas de aplicação e meteorologia, atingimos os maiores níveis de eficiência e máxima rentabilidade no campo. Imagens processadas geram projetos de plantio que são utilizados no piloto automático para traçar linhas paralelamente perfeitas. E, ao mesmo tempo, os dados de desempenho dos equipamentos são transmitidos para a nuvem e, de lá, diretamente para suas mãos. Controle total e precisão no plantio de forma automática e conectada. Durante o ciclo de tratos culturais, a cobertura da área com troca de informações entre os equipamentos é fundamental para evitar sobreposição e otimizar a aplicação de insumos. Controle bico a bico da pulverização e mapas de taxa variável são tecnologias disponíveis para aumentar a eficiência da aplicação. E para garantir maior disponibilidade no campo, nosso sistema de monitoramento avisa o concessionário sobre a proximidade da manutenção preventiva da máquina. Combinando esse alerta com as informações climáticas geradas pela estação meteorológica, o time de serviços pode determinar a hora ideal para realizar essa intervenção. Durante a operação, as colheitadeiras geram dados operacionais que são transmitidos diretamente para o AFS Connect. Conectividade total, com cobertura 4G em toda a propriedade, permite que os mapas de produtividade e indicadores de performance sejam analisados em tempo real. Informações conectadas garantem máxima assertividade na tomada de decisões.
Thank you. So if you carry the connectedness theme further into autonomy, You see the levels of autonomy in this chart. We use common definition for the levels of autonomy both on the on-highway applications and off-highway applications, starting from a simple coordination between machines, which is level 2, to automated machines with human backup, which is level 3, and supervised autonomy, where the driver is not in the vehicle, which is level 4, and all the way up to full autonomy. Again, these technologies are not technologies for the sake of technology, but they are there to improve, bring customer value. They are there to improve productivity, ease of operation, better decision making, and also safety for our customers. I'd like to share with you a very short video on the autonomy. If you could play the next video, please. Thank you. So let me switch gears and talk about technologies that benefit environmental benefits, like alternative fuels, in particular biomethane. They have a significant advantage in reducing well-to-wheel emissions, as you can see on the bottom right of the graph, and also a very interesting view of what we call creating a circular economy. The picture on there, if you think of the biodigester on the farm, which receives waste from various sources, and the biogas can be used at the bottom left here for electricity generation. And of course, if we extract biomethane from it, it can source multiple vehicles, whether it's commercial trucks or agricultural equipment or even construction equipment. So this is very interesting technology, very important for Brazil. If you just go to the next slide. And Brazil's ability, this is the data on Brazil's biomethane potential. If you look at the waste from the sugarcane, food waste, and landfill, the ability to generate biogas from the various sources, we can replace 30% of the diesel by this clean energy source, which makes it very attractive for Brazil. And in a farm, if there's a biodigester and the tractors, the whole system can self-feed itself. So it does very much become a complete circular economy in the case of agriculture with the technology like this. So if you go to the next slide, we are focused on engine and vehicle technologies that enable biomethane across all of our segments. Can you just go to the next slide, please? The commercial vehicles that are already launched in South America region will be a natural extension coming into Brazil, considering, as I shared in the previous slide, the biogas generation potential of Brazil. Yeah, I'll give you another example on the construction side. If you go to the next slide, it shows one of our wheel loader concepts on the construction side with the same technology, biomethane or natural gas, and you see the environment with noise pollution benefits quantified there in terms of 95% CO2 benefits. Again, CNG, LNG, and biomethane are all on our roadmap for alternative fuels. And then, of course, we are very much focused on zero emissions with electrification. If you go to the next slide, it's a very core part of our technology portfolio. If you go to the next slide, please. Given our long experience on the bus and commercial vehicle side in electrification, the technologies and the know-how or read across and then continuing on the even on the off-highway side as well. I'm going to share a couple of examples on the commercial vehicle side, and the next slide. You all know about our collaboration or joint venture with Nikola. It is to not only to produce the best-in-class electrified truck solutions, but also integrates new class-leading technologies such as human-machine interface, and it's targeted for both Europe and the US market. And there's technology advancements in control algorithms, battery pack, etc. We are in the middle of building a prototype. The picture on the top right shows our Ulm plant, and the prototypes will be going through an extensive testing and mileage accumulation. I want to close this session with a really important topic for CNH. So I know we talked so much about technology. Let's just talk about our culture a little bit. If you go to the next slide, it was very nice for me to see the discussion around diversity inclusion in the previous earlier sessions. This is very much very important to CNH. It is in our DNA. By definition, we are a very multicultural organization. So we are inherently diverse and inclusive, but we are putting a lot more focus specifically on gender diversity and certain topics there. And it is not just about diversity, it's also the inclusion, how you make the diversity work. I want to share an example here where we are looking at diversity in inclusion, not just in the way we work in the company, but also in our products. If you just go to the next slide, we are very proud that we have 5% of our workforce in Brazil is special needs. And to enable people to actually work on farms, get into vehicles and actually operate the vehicles when they do have special needs. We've partnered with the company to come up with products that allow people with special needs a full accessibility into our vehicles. If you just go to the next slide, if you play the video, it'll be an interesting one for everybody to see. So in closing, diversity and inclusion is really a cornerstone for innovation, and very proud to be a part of it. So with that, I'm going to close my presentation, and thank you all for the opportunity, and looking forward to the discussion.
We thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Because you have given us a very wide view of a very diverse universe. Now, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Looking at different areas of CNH operations, engines, trucks, buses, tractors, capital goods, etc. Could you please put an earphone, madam? What could you give the rest of the world in technology, and which technology used in the rest of the world could be brought to Brazil?
Okay. So the question was is what technology is transferable from the rest of the world into Brazil and vice versa? I assume that was the question.
That's right.
Okay. So as I said, we look at technology more globally. The technology themes that I mentioned, such as electrification, alternative fuels, whether it's the CNG or even biomethane, elements of autonomy, safety technologies, all of them have a global customer need. And having said that, Brazil has an excellent, I should say, challenge in terms of the Brazil's environment, the soil conditions, etc. That challenges our product development as well. So technology themes that I mentioned earlier in my presentation are very much global, and they can be developed anywhere. They are applicable to Brazil and other places. Things like I mentioned, sugarcane harvesters. Brazil, with this very rich sugarcane agriculture, Brazil is leading for us in terms of sugarcane harvester development, designed and developed in Brazil, and is exported all over the world. So we kind of look at all our overall technology as one connected theme, and it is, it is very much applicable globally.
Thank you, Jay. In the world, there is a clear electrification trend for buses and trucks as well. Does
Yes.
CNH work with it?
Yes,
What?
electrification, we have been in electrification very early, at least for the last 10 years or so, in our trucks and in our buses. I shared the pictures earlier. And now we've shared several concept vehicles for electrification, full electrification, both on the agriculture side and on the construction side. And then Nikola, our partnership with Nikola, where we're going to go with full electric vehicle for the trucks, commercial vehicle trucks, as well as future looking at fuel cell technologies. So we are very much in electrification across all our product domains, including our powertrain development, creating electrified axles that can go on our Nikola trucks. So battery technology development, being able to do a systems integration in terms of software and controls, how things go together. So electrification is absolutely an important theme for us. And having said that, the application of electrification will vary depending on the duty cycle, the customer acceptance, and there'll be a time or a roadmap for deployment. But the development part of it is very much full speed.
Thank you, Jay. You have spoken about the partnership between Iveco and Nikola, thinking about electric trucks.
Yes.
How advanced is that partnership?
Yes, we
And
are
what's going to happening after Trevor Newton was away from the company, has left the company?
Yeah, our partnership is with Nikola Corporation, and we have a strategic, exclusive heavy truck partnership with Nikola, with the aim of accelerating the transformation towards heavy trucks emission neutrality, initially in North America and in Europe, both locations, with the adoption of full electric vehicles, battery technology, as well as fuel cell technology. So the very first model, so we are committed to this, and we have a joint venture in Ulm, Germany. The first model is Nikola Tre Electric. I think one of the slides had a picture of Nikola Tre, based on Iveco's new heavy truck platform used in the S-Way, which integrates Nikola technology, controls, information, entertainment, etc. with our vehicle. Prototypes were built, and we're beginning, as I said, mileage accumulation and testing as we speak. So as far as the partnership, it is full speed ahead, and we are continuing the partnership.
Thank you. What about agricultural and construction machines? Which are the technology trends for powertrain? Electrification or alternative fuels?
We see both pathways depending on the application. As an example, we see, as I mentioned, it's a spectrum of pathways, technology pathways. We see usage of gas and biomethane. I shared a construction sector with the, case construction technology that I shared with called Project Tetra. It's a loader powered by biomethane with engines manufactured by FPT. And then for agricultural machines, what we do see is that clearly alternative fuels is very strong. And the electrification, we are seeing, electrification of implements, electrification of drive lines. Again, the adoption of this will take some time, depending on the maturity of, maturity, energy density, technology progression of battery technologies. But we do see this coming because of benefits of better controllability, quiet operation from an electrification perspective. So we see this as a technology pathway covering multiple technologies, but it all depends on the use case of the machine and the cost points of the technology.
Jay, as to gas engines, that seems very important for CNH all over the world.
Yes.
Is it sustainable for the next few years? Gas
Yes,
technology.
you're referring to CNG, LNG gas technology. Absolutely. We believe it is sustainable. We believe it is a lower cost, environmentally friendly alternative to full electrification. As I mentioned before, the potential to generate a biomethane in certain parts of the world makes it a very attractive, a clean energy, a sustainable and economic option. And having said that, because of regulations being driven in other parts of the world, as well as other customer benefits, we are also obviously invested in electrification technology, but we absolutely see gas technology as very sustainable.
I'm going to ask you a question from the audience. Alvaro Alvim, from what I understood, asked us if CNH has the engineering capacity in Brazil to design machines, trucks, engines for the rest of the world.
Yes, CNH, as I mentioned, we have 6 R&D centers in Brazil with over 600 engineers. We have 6 manufacturing plants. Some of our largest manufacturing R&D centers are in Brazil, including some of the very advanced manufacturing plants are also in Brazil. We've already, for the sugarcane harvester, Brazil is the lead for us globally. And that product is being designed, developed, tested, and fully manufactured in Brazil and exported all over the world. So absolutely, we have a very, very strong presence in Brazil. And not just that, though. The team in Brazil is very innovative. In fact, last week, it was Innovation Week internally in the company for Brazil. The team engages in generating new ideas, many new patents. We have been recognized as the most innovative in the region by external organizations. So we feel very good about our strength in Brazil and our ability to be the lead for designing, several global products for the rest of the world.
Well, Jay, now we have another question from the audience. Is there any remaining technological partnership or assistance from the past where CNH was a part of Fiat?
Okay, are we? Is the question? Are there any partnerships with the CNH from the Fiat? So yeah, of course we are. Um, you know, continue to develop, continue to share information between CNH and Fiat in terms of technology areas. Um, there is techno. We are in a different business, but different customer segment, different business, but some of the lessons learned that happen in the automotive sector can actually easily translate into our CNH business. I personally, if you see my career, I should say I grew up in automotive sector in my early career time. So I was in Fiat Chrysler for a very long time before I moved to CNH. So there is always lessons learned, information exchange. We don't really have a full official technology partnership at the moment, but I think there is a exchange of dialogue between sharing of information between the two companies.
Well, our time is running up. I'd like to ask you one last question about diversity. It's very difficult to see women rising in their career in the automobile industry. Even rarer to see women in design, engineering, etc. I'd like to hear your opinion and how you overcame barriers to get to where you are now.
It's a very interesting question, and thank you for the diversity inclusion question. This is, as you well know, that globally, women in technology is a minority in terms of percentage. I think the previous speaker was referring to she was the only woman in an engineering school. I was the only woman in my mechanical engineering school. From that context in the company, we're thinking about we are focusing on how do we increase the talent pipeline coming into the company with women. How do we advance support women's talent movement in the company, as well as retention. So we're focusing on all of that. Personally, for me, I would say that as right from the university, I went into a very, very, very male-dominated industry. It was much different several years ago. It's better now. I guess I would say that if I just reflect on what enabled me, or just three simple things, is that one is be authentic, true to yourself, know yourself. Don't come into don't change who you are because people around you are different. They look different than you. That was the first. So you have to be true to yourself. Second is continue to learn and grow and have a passion towards something. And, constantly, focusing on what you need to do, have a passion, do it with excellence, and grow, because not everybody knows everything. You got to continue to learn and grow every day. And then the third is that there will be situations, because it is the reality, where you're faced a situation where you're facing discrimination, but don't let the situations get you down. Don't let one situation get you down. Just focus on who you are, continue to learn, and then just keep moving if you have, let's say, a little bit of a stumbling along the way. So those are the three things I can think of is sort of what enabled me to get here.
Very good. Thank you very much for answering all our
Thank you.
questions, for having accepted to be here with us. And we hope to see you here in Brazil
We'd love
in
to.
an
After
opportunity in the
the COVID, I'm
future.
going to be there. Yes.
Depois, it'll be a pleasure to receive you. We can have a coffee which was harvested by one of your machines. Bye bye and have a great day.
You too.
Okay, we've reached the end of our presentations for the fourth day of the ABX20. I thank you very much for the audience, the questions, all the slides that you've seen here and on the other day you can access on abx.com.vc. It's all there. Vast material of a podcast, which you can also consult and you can download at any time. Thank you very much for being with us, and I'm going to now give the floor to Paula Braga for us to be able to end this morning's session. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Silvana, who's also been with us, all the speakers. What a lovely morning. Talking about diversity, this warms my heart. This is something that I think is super important. So I'm going to take the cue and invite you all to be with us on the 24th and 25th of November at our event, which is the Diversity Forum. We're going to talk a lot about this subject. So don't miss it. The invitation has been made, and I'd like to end with talking about two books, Eagle Rider by José Hélio Contador. It's a really good book. We've done a draw, and Adenir Antunes and Rafael Gaspar, and you're going to receive this. The lives have not finished. This afternoon we have a meeting at 2 o'clock to talk about quality, and it's going to be a very interesting afternoon. So I'm anxious to see you right after lunch. So enjoy the end of this morning and see you soon.
Driverless cars, connected services, new sharing concepts. The automotive industry is in the midst of change. The Internet of Things is opening up a whole new world of possibilities that will push the boundaries of mobility. But what will the future really look like on the roads? One thing is for certain. New technologies are going to revolutionize today's mobility. They will turn the journey into a digitally enhanced experience and connect the vehicle to its surroundings. With Bosch, connected mobility is becoming a reality, more efficient, safer, and more comfortable and convenient.
Itaú Veículos. Soluções completas, ferramentas modernas, alta tecnologia. Reconhecimento facial, mais segurança e agilidade na compra e venda de veículos. Chat na plataforma digital. Comunicação mais fácil entre a concessionária e nosso time. Open Banking. União entre plataformas e parceiros. Inteligência artificial. Essencial na captura e gestão de leads. Soluções de mobilidade. Com a Connect Car, seu cliente vai mais longe. Olhamos para o futuro. Queremos sempre mais. Vamos juntos? Itaú Veículos. Nosso negócio é viabilizar o seu.
Mounting exterior automotive parts can be a slow process that requires the use of a noxious chemical adhesion promoter. However, our Tessa ACX primerless line of high-performance double-sided acrylic foam tapes eliminates the need for primers. These tapes quickly achieve a high level of strength and provide the thermal expansion characteristics needed when mounting side moldings, decorative trims, emblems, and other exterior attachment parts. To learn more about the benefits and cost savings of using our Tessa ACX Plus primerless line on difficult-to-bond substrates such as polypropylene EPDM, TPO, and TPE, visit tessatape.com.